Tell us about Premature, how that happened, and what that did for your career.
Yeah, Premature was a big door opener for me. This happened when I was in NYU, grad film school. It was my second year film, and I had made a couple of shorts, at that point, and I had also worked in the New York City public school system briefly between acting school and film school, and I got to see I got to see teenage girls who were pregnant in class and stuff like that. And I was just like, wow, that's pretty deep. And yeah, so when I was just thinking about, what story I wanted to tell, a lot of my classmates were from other parts of the world and stuff like that. And I was just like, I'm definitely going to tell you a New York story.
Okay.
And what is it that I know? What is it that moves me? And I was reading one of those AM New York articles, one of those little blurbs, and it was like another, another baby found in the dumpster or whatever. And I was just like, at first, my first instinct was, what the hell is wrong with this? What the hell's wrong with the woman? With the mother, like how could she? Right. Was my first instinct, and I said, well, let me rewind for a second, because that doesn't do anything to solve the problem. It's like this isn't the first case. Right. This is a number of cases that have happened. Right. What are the societal factors? Like what are the larger issues at play that make these girls feel like they have no other choice? Right. So when I asked myself that question, I said, if I wanted to explore that in a film, I would have to make this character, we would have to understand and place ourselves in her shoes, relate to her in some way, so that when she does make that decision, we know it's not just a crazy girl. So right. She's been pushed
to that point. You are able to tell this story that happens over a extended amount of time, but it doesn't feel like you're trying to squeeze too much in. That happens sometimes with short films. Yeah. It's like you could focus on this one thing, or you try to do too much. One of the things that struck me was the efficiency of the shots and the scenes. Right. I mean, literally from the opening scene, cutting to her mom, cutting to her taking the test and finding out, and then to the bedroom. I mean, I think it's like you get to her telling her boyfriend in like 5 scenes or something. It's just very efficient storytelling. Also stuff like where she finds out, the reaction is to move in. It's, that's her reaction to that news of finding out that she's pregnant. Where some people might have, there might be dialogue or something else. I think there's a very interesting way that you get to the interior feeling, with the person's feeling, without over killing it through shots or through dialogue. Yeah. So I thought, can you speak to that?
Thank you. Yeah. I think I lucked out. I might be a much worse writer now. Now that I've learned about it. At that point, I was much closer to my acting days too. So like trusting your actor to, you don't have to put words in their mouth when they can act it. But just if I did that film over today, I probably wouldn't do it over 7 months. I'd probably just take a little segment, of it. But at that time, I was just like, well, what happens in a pregnancy? It's just like, she's got to find out she's pregnant. Right. They usually throw up. It's like, it's like, okay, they throw up, and then she takes a pregnancy test.
Right. Well.
And I wanted the mother to discover that she's pregnant. Mom discovers she's pregnant. Right. She got to tell her boyfriend. Right. Boyfriend breaks up. Right. The girls at the school. How do the girls at the school feel about it? And then she's got to give birth to the baby. You know,
Yeah.
throw it out.
You're right.
You know, and it was like, there you go, like film.
Right. I mean, and so what's interesting about that is that you make it sound simple, but it's not that simple. One of the things is, so were the actors professional actors? Were they amateur actors? Were they?
I think, Zora, the girl I cast, had some acting experience. You know, she worked up at Harlem School of Arts and stuff like that. And I met her, like, I saw her do some poetry.
Okay.
You know, and I was just like, this girl is like wise beyond her years, you know, so when I was thinking about who might play the girl, you know, I kind of already had her in mind just because, although she hadn't gone through anything like that, I was willing to bet that she could imagine, you know, or feel those feelings deeply. And I was right, you know, I didn't know I was going to be able to cover that scene the way I did.
Okay.
You know, I thought that, you know, her giving birth, I was going to have to be like outside the bathroom and just like, you know, cut to, she's got the baby. But like, when I saw, like, I had an audition and had to go through it, and when I saw that she was able to bring it, you know, I was like, okay, we'll get some close-ups, you know, and she was, you know, she showed up that day, you know, she really, so much so that, you know, my DP and I were like, all right, let's take a break, you know, film, and we just looked at each other like, we gotta film, like we have, if nothing else, like that scene alone, and what she brought in those 2 takes.
Absolutely.
I was like, all right.
Yeah. I actually, so I watched it a couple of times, and I didn't, so I watched it twice for this, and I didn't watch that scene either time. I just watched it when we watched it together. I just didn't watch it. Because it is that, you know, it takes you to a place where, you know, it's difficult to deal with, you know, to say the least. But it was a fantastic performance. Can you tell a little bit about what Gun Hill Road is about? Because we haven't gotten to see it, and how that project came about.
Sure, Gun Hill Road is about a Latino family in the Bronx whose father comes home from prison after 3 years and discovers that his teenage child is transgender, male to female, so like transitioning, unbeknownst to him, and he has a problem with it, and that's what it's about. But yeah, so it was inspired. My cousin has a transgender child, and he's been in and out of prison, and kind of leaned on my shoulder for about a year as his family was going through it and stuff like that, and you know, they didn't stay together, but yeah, he didn't necessarily have the tools necessary to cope with his child's transition and his child's sexuality, and I just thought, you know, I felt for my cousin. You know, I felt for my cousin as you know, he felt like he was responsible. He felt guilty. You know, and I just knew that there were other people out there that were probably dealing with, you know, very similar issues, and yeah, I felt for everybody, and you know, I felt for everybody in the situation, because it's not like the child is trying to disappoint their parents. Right. You know what I'm saying? And especially like in Black and brown communities, it's going to be a very difficult and taboo thing. Sure. You know, and I try to place myself in my cousin's position, you know, asking myself, what would I do? Right. You know, from an outsider, you know, as a progressive person, as an artist, I can say, you know, oh, it's easy for me to say, oh, you know, you should just love your child, you know. Right. But being in that situation and only having like an only child, and if I'm, you know, macho from the Bronx, and you know, religion and my mom, and you know, and the streets have just raised me to, you know, to perceive the world in a certain way. Right. And all of a sudden, my only son wants to be a woman. I don't know if like love my child is the first thing that will come out of my, so I just try to, tell a story that the audience would understand how complex that issue is, and hopefully understand how hard it is for the father to be flexible.
I think it's interesting, the idea of showing characters who your initial thought is to judge them in maybe a negative way,
Right.
in their journey. That's a very interesting thing and important. One of the other things that was interesting to me is this idea of teenagers, young people not being supported, and how that can lead and does lead to dangerous, them finding themselves or putting themselves in dangerous situations.
As far as like from personal experience, I can't say that my life mimicked some of the inner city youth. I was very, very blessed to have a father who worked, who was there for us, who put us through sports and school and stress education, and so we were very blessed. Of course, the kids I went to school with, maybe were not as fortunate, and seeing other kids in the rest of the city that I grew up mostly in Staten Island. I was born in the Bronx, but grew up mostly in Staten Island, and we would play the outer boroughs and stuff like that, in sports and stuff like this, and it's just a whole different vibe. It's just a whole different vibe. They would come from a different side of the tracks, and it was clear that certain folks had support, and and certain folks didn't. And certain folks, didn't have money, and like what that does to families, what poverty does to the family unit, and what families are forced to do when they don't have resources, and that's just a reality, not only in New York, but in every single city in the States. So.